All right, guys, so time is now for a showdown between the High Elves, who are going to be led by the new and improved Tyrion, and Norska, who's going to be led by Wulfric the Wanderer. So without further ado, let's jump right into this match and have some fun. So as far as the build goes, we do have a front line of the Spearmen, who have really good melee defense at 51. They have anti-large, they have charge defense. They're essentially just going to be the anchor and sponge of the Norscan onslaught. So they're not going to be able to do terribly well against like champions, and I actually don't know how the trade goes with Marauders. I know Marauders are actually quite a bit cheaper, but I'd be interested to see how that goes in like long-term sustained combat. I'm pretty sure that's going to favor the Norscan Marauders because of the enrage mechanic. So for anyone who hasn't seen this before, actually in my Norscan guide, I do talk about it quite a bit, but all the Norscan units, or the infantry, do have this rage mechanic. And I know that the Berserkers have a different one, but these guys get leadership, physical resist, and eventually they get a melee attack buff, which puts them up to 39. So they're actually pretty good in the long game. Definitely better to burn down Norska as quick as possible. Whereas the High Elves are stronger in the beginning, but in the long game, they start to suffer because they lose their martial prowess. So front line's going to be Spearmen. We do also have two groups of the White Lines here who are going to be trying to karate chop some of those Norscan infantry. They give you a little bit more punch. They have decent armor. Their combat stats are quite good while their martial prowess is active, but once they wear off, they definitely get pretty weak with only 24 melee defense. We have the Lore Master of Hoth with the Spirit Leech and Earthblood there. We got Tyrion on his horse here. Tyrion, of course, one of the better assassins in the game. Very powerful, tough to kill, especially if you have the Heart of Averlorn, which when he gets below a certain point, it basically gives him a massive amount of healing. And you think Tyrion's tough to kill already, just, man, this item is so insane. Like, even if like the rest of your army just completely flops, like Tyrion is still going to just anchor you for so long. So we Sisters of Avalorn here in the back against the Fimir and other large monsters and spooky dragons and things like that. We have two groups of the Lothern Seaguard with the shields. And the shields, I just bring them, they get better melee defense, and if there are like javelins and any sort of missile harass, it doesn't hurt. I don't know if it's really worth it, probably not in this matchup, but I just felt like trying it out to see how it would do. We have the Fireborn in the back, which are very fun. You have to be careful for Fate of Buna and, of course, Lore of Death effects, and Focus Fire from Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes is really good against those guys. So solid picks from my opponent over there having those. We have one group of Reavers, a couple spears in the back, and that is it. So a very tight High Elf army. I don't know if it's going to be wide enough here, but we will see in just a moment. So for my opponent's forces, the Beasts of Tashnar, Norscan Ice Wolves, whole front line of Marauders with three groups of Fimir Warriors. So he's got some heavy punch here. Spearmen will be okay against Fimir with their anti-large and, of course, their ability to kind of just hold. But it's really going to put a lot of a heavy load on the Fireborn as well as the Sisters of Avalorn here. In the back, he's got Spearmen, Marauder Hunters with Javelins. Wulfric is going to be on his Pimp Chariot. And we got a Fimir Balefiend with Shadows, which is very good. Pendulum is beautiful against High Elves. On the far side here, we do have Marauder Horsemen with Throwing Axes. And that is pretty much it. So guys, let's get this show on the road. So right now I'm going to be squaring up to meet my opponent, just kind of evaluating his army, seeing where he's coming from. So I will be squaring up a little bit and using the Reavers. I really wish that the Reavers had shields in it. It reminded me in this game, I was like, something is missing. I feel like I'm not bringing something I usually do. And if you are playing against Norska, it's really good to bring the Reavers with the bows, because the bows can actually hard counter the throwing axes very efficiently. So I've made a bit of a mistake not bringing the bow variant. I really think it's bringing like one or two groups here. But these Reavers can chase and screen them out at the very least and allow the rest of my army to do some heavy fighting here versus the Norscan. So moving up a little bit further so I can get in range with my Sisters of Avalorn. My Reavers are chasing, but they've already taken 5 casualties from those Marauder Horsemen, which is rough. And the Sisters of Avalorn are going to be tearing into the Fimir, doing some okay damage at first, but nothing to write home about, that's for sure. So in the back, the Fimir are going to be advancing. The Bowfire from the Lothern Seaguard is going to be engaging here on the Marauder Hunters with Javelins, as well as these Fimir Warriors. And my Reavers are going to be falling back. I was just taking too much damage, and I was like, man, that is not going well. So the frontline engagement's underway. I missed a couple charges with one of my Spearman groups, but the Fireborn are just kind of lurking in the back, just waiting for an opportunity, seeing where his elite troops are going to go, where his lord's going to go, and things like that. Seafang is going to be going down, airing through the formation. So a beautiful Seafang from my opponent is going to hit the White Lines. Doesn't do as much damage as I thought it would. Maybe it does more against like light armor, but still not bad at all. So we do use an Earthblood here in the front to hit all of my troops. Tyrion's going to be fighting in the front as well against these Marauders, and he's doing a great job just buttering their bread. So now that this Balefiend is nearby, he'll be attacking the Balefiend. Spearmen here, though, are faltering, and there's a massive formation here. So I had a bit of a choice to make. I was like, man, my whole formation is compromised. I probably should have kept the White Lines back to kind of help against this blob here, but look at this. This is going to be another Shadow spell. How could he cast it that quick? I could have sworn he just did a Pendulum, but I guess it's already been enough time. So the Fireborn are going to charge to intercept against Fimir and Infantry, and they're pretty good against all these targets, but the big issue being is that he does have Marauder Horsemen with Throwing Axes. We're going to be able to just drag down the Fireborn. Now, when I play against like Bretonnia, for example, with Norska, I love to use a ton of these Marauder Horsemen because they're just so damn good against heavy cav. Now, Sunfang's going to be going down, so Tyrion rushes over to help, and a massive erect Sunfang just coming down, roasting these Marauders, doing so much damage, basically like bringing those guys down to just almost nothing. So that was great. Now the Fireborn are isolated against the Fimir, which is good. Tyrion's helping out as well. Foeseeker, stand your ground, upgraded Earthblood. Things are going very well in this flank, but in the center pocket, not so well. The Spearmen are just being overwhelmed. The White Lines actually got buckled down by these Fimir Warriors. Now the Lothar and Seaguard are having to just kind of stand and fight. Now I can send them into melee if I want to, which I think I actually end up doing in just a moment. These Lothar and Seaguard on the far side are about to be attacked by the Norscan Ice Doggos, who I believe are infantry sized. No, they're actually large. Yeah, that's right. So Norscan Ice Wolves are considered large units, whereas the standard ones, so this was a mistake. I actually countercharged them because I'm so used to thinking Chaos Warhounds and Dire Wolves are small, but these guys are large. So the charge defense on the Lothar and Seaguard would have actually mattered there. But regardless, their bonus versus large is still going to be very good. They'll actually be able to fend off those Ice Wolves. So that's actually a nice pickup there, but I still made that mistake. Now, here Tyrion is able to kind of finish off these Fimir warriors. The Fireborn took a ton of damage, but we did get rid of a very expensive infantry unit. But the whole time, we're taking a lot of fire from these Marauder Hunters and these throwing axes, so I do turn my Sisters of Avalorn across the field here. I'm like, I need to start damaging these horsemen, putting them down. These Lothar and Seaguard are just kind of holding up the position, and the shield's definitely giving them a little bit more melee defense, if I'm not mistaken, so they should be able to hold here. And I have them in guard mode, so some of them are still shooting, if I'm not mistaken. But this entire front line is just an absolute disaster now. The balance of power is pretty darn even. My Lore Master of Hoth is in good shape. We did get some good damage on Wulfric, but Wulfric is now free, and man, he's going to come butter the bread of these Sisters here. And he does get these Sunfang, or Seafang coming in, not Sunfang, and it's able to ride through the Sisters, but I did kind of turn at the last second to shoot at something else, so thankfully, just based on luck, I was able to dodge that. Now, the Fireborn have engaged in a bit of a pit fight. We're trying to pin down the Fimir and methodically just go through and take these guys out. The Spearmen have them pinned from one side, or Lothar and Seaguard. So not a bad situation, but there's just a tide of Norskins coming in, which is going to be really tough to take down. As far as Tyrion goes, he's in okay shape, a really good pendulum from my opponent. It looks like he does hit the Fireborn as well as some of my other troops here. But yeah, it's getting a little bit swampy. The Fimir coming in, he's got Marauders. I believe he has Marauder Champions mixed in here as well, and Marauder Spearmen, which are going to be great against Fireborn. So suddenly it's looking like this particular pocket is not going to be good at all. I pull back the Sisters of Avalorn, I send in the reserve, so none of these guys have their martial prowess now, so they're not going to be nearly as strong. And I've been having trouble catching Wulfric because he's been able to just pull through infantry, so whenever I chase him with Tyrion, it's like he's always just kind of cackling and squeaking away here. So very good play from my opponent. So right here, Wulfric the Wanderer is able to charge through the Sisters of Avalorn. Now, for the first time, the balance of power is in my opponent's favor, but we're definitely stabilizing in many areas of the battlefield. So the Lothar and Seaguard are just shooting into a blob of Spearmen, who don't have the shields, of course. I'm pretty sure they don't. These Spearmen here should be able to finish off these Marauders, and it looks like I have a couple of Fireborn coming back. It looks like 3 of them, so I think I actually end up sending them at Wulfric. And the Sisters are being attacked by the Hounds as well, which is not good. But here in the center, we do okay. We break off Marauders. Tyrion is now free. It looks like there was an enfeebling foe going down, but we're coming for Wulfric now. So Wulfric's definitely going to be taking a lot of damage from Tyrion, as well as his buddy Fireborn. So it looks like 3 Fireborn still doing their thing. Tyrion is on the hunt in the meantime. 2,700 HP on Wulfric, and I am just chasing him down. Tyrion, of course, I think is pretty close to, or a little bit faster even, so hopefully we can catch Wulfric and do some good damage. Marauder Horsemen have a lot of ammunition left, so my opponent's been doing a very good job with his ammunition conservation, making sure only to throw at the high-value targets, it looks like, or uses ammo on the armor targets. Wulfric hasn't really taken more damage. He did use the Scroll of Shielding on himself, and he's able to kind of maneuver away. Fimir coming in, so I have to be really cautious with Tyrion because Fimir do have enough mass to kind of pin me down. But the Lothar and Seaguard have stabilized here on the far side, so we have 60 of them. We do have 35 of the Sisters of Avalorn shooting in here, just blasting into this blob of Norscan infantry. So we're slowly starting to grind them down, and you can see the Norskins are actually looking a little bit tattered here. These Fimir warrior are very, Fimir warrior. I don't know why that's such a tongue twister. My goodness, they're all getting pretty beat up. These ones are broken. Tyrion is standing in the center of the pocket, just tanking like an absolute boss here. Bowseeker being popped, and he does have the Lore Master of Hoth, who's actually quite powerful in melee as well. So he's able to do pretty good against these infantry-sized targets. I believe he does have a bonus for his infantry, and it looks like he does with really good armor piercing. So we actually take out my opponent's caster for a moment, I think. Was that the caster that we got? Looking around for the caster. I think we actually just killed it. Yeah, it looks like Tyrion plus his Lore Master of Hoth were able to just goon that caster in a matter of seconds. That was really nice right there. And that does actually pull us ahead in the balance of power a little bit. Not ahead, but back towards the middle here, because we were starting to slip a little bit into the red zone. So in the back, the Marauder Horsemen are charging into my Sisters of Avalorn, who I have some spears, and 1 Fireborn back there defending to the bitter end. They got 98 kills, which wasn't bad. These Spearmen back here are going to be waiting for the Wulfric, and the Sunfang does go down, which roasts some of the Marauders. Definitely quite helpful. Still so many Fimir left, but such a close battle right here. Anyways, Lothar and Seaguard still shoot again. It's going to be a little bit scary when I do run out of ammunition, and I knew at this point, like, I had to stop Wulfric. So Tyrion was really providing that anchor. He was just doing massive armor-piercing damage against the Fimir, but I had to deal with Wulfric because in the back he was just causing so many problems. So Tyrion charges in. He gets a great hit there on Wulfric, does about 500 damage, definitely very good. And the 1 Fireborn charges in, and he gets hit again. So Wulfric is getting in the danger zone a little bit. Now, he does have some Norscan Ice Wolves who pull in. They're able to kind of muck me up. So beautiful play from my opponent, because had he not had those Ice Wolves coming in from the back there, it could have been some serious trouble. I think Tyrion might have been able to chase down Wulfric and kill him and really turn the tide of the battle. So The Lore Master of Hoth, unfortunately, was left alone when Tyrion went to go chase Wulfric, and he's holding valiantly, but still, these Fimir warriors and all these other troops are doing some great work, and the High Elf Spearmen are trying to hold, but you can see there's just a lot of very rough situations all over the battlefield. In the backside, Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes are engaging on the Sisters of Averlorn, causing some serious problems. Now, Sisters are much more powerful in melee, but their martial prowess is gone. There's just numbers. They're cycle charging. Definitely a lot of scary stuff coming on. So, if you look at the battlefield, it looks like a bit of a crumble for my forces. The Lore Master of Hoth is gone. The Spearmen are gone. Sisters are holding. A couple Lothern Seaguard. Wulfric is in trouble. Now, there is one thing that could potentially get me back in the game here, and that is the Heart of Averlorn. The Heart of Averlorn would heal me up, a pretty substantial amount, to the point where Tyrion might be able to kind of deal with the remnants of these troops and just kind of beat them down with feint and riposte. But it's really going to come down to, am I going to hit army losses, or is the Heart of Averlorn going to go off? So I was a little bit concerned because I'm very low. My army is like pretty much tattered. So I feel like if Tyrion loses any more HP, I'm going to get hit with army losses. And that means the Heart of Averlorn isn't going to be able to be used. So it's a really unfortunate circumstance here. But if the Heart of Averlorn does go off, I certainly think that Tyrion's going to be able to kind of take this blob of just chaff. It's just Marauder Horsemen. There's a couple of Fimir, but really not enough to these ones have 9 models, but I think Tyrion is certainly up to the task of dealing with a lot of these. Although I don't think I have any more Sunfang charges. And right there you can see that Tyrion is actually going to be wavering. I was like, no, just go off. I want the Heart of Averlorn to go. But feint and riposte being popped. I'm trying to do everything I can to stay in this battle here. Tyrion, of course, doing a great job. Some of the archers here in the back. The Lothern Seaguard shooting in, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I think we're going to get slapped with the army losses. The feint and riposte still holding firm. You can see some of the Norskins are starting to get a little bit beat up, but yeah, I don't know. It's going to be tough. Hunter Champions is there. I use an Earthblood, so the Lore Master of Hoth did come back in the 4th quarter, running over the hill like the hero he is, just charging in here with his fat sword, but you can see Tyrion is being swarmed down here, and unfortunately that's going to be all she wrote, but he actually does shatter some of these Fimir warriors before he goes. And the Heart of Averlorn didn't pop, so I don't know if I didn't get low enough, or maybe it's a chance that it pops. I think it actually is like a chance. That's going to be all she wrote. So really close game, just down to the wire. Certainly could have gone either way. It was super fun for sure. So Tyrion's a beast. I actually think he's probably one of the most competitive lore choices for the High Elves, if not the most competitive now. Him and Alarielle are probably interchangeable. Alarielle probably would have been better here, maybe, because she could have kept the Fireborn and my other troops kind of holding a little bit longer. But again, Tyrion slaughtered this Fimir Balefiend. He was just mobile. He can chase down lords like Wulfric. So I don't know. Arguably, maybe he is better. So if I had to change his build and just make it a little bit more competitive, what I would do, and I would just go with kind of a build I've used against Norsca in the past. So yeah, we'll take a look at that. But as far as my opponent's army, it was beautiful. It was great. He had numbers. He had anti-infantry. He had pressure in the back line. It was just a solid army for my opponent. He played extremely well, and it was really fun. So let's go ahead and take a look at my build here, and we'll see what we would change if we were to run that one back. So we're going to go take a look at High Elves versus Norsca. And conveniently, we're here. So that is not Tyrion. That is another guy with a cool helmet. So we're going to go Tyrion again. Just, you could probably cut Foeseeker, although Foeseeker is pretty nice for closing in. Heart of Averlorn, I think, is pretty good. It can win games single-handedly, so I think it is worth the investment there. I don't know if the Lore Master of Hoth is necessary. I think we can go with a mage with just a life mage or something. Just the Spirit Leech was pretty nice, I guess, against Wulfric, but having the regrowth and the layers of healing for the Fireborn, I think, are a little bit more synergistic, and they're very cheap if you strip them down here. And we can even put it on a steed or something. Yeah, it's still quite a bit cheaper than the Lore Master, right? So front line, we get the Scions. I think those guys are going to be good. Our front line was okay. You could even go with more White Lion heavy to try and hold that up, or you could even mix in I'm a little hesitant to mix in Swordmasters because I feel that the Fimir are going to be just so good against them. But anyways, the rest of the army, I think getting a couple Reaver Archers is going to be really good. Get 2 of them plus 1 standard Reaver. Now the standard Reaver is going to be able to just dumpster the Hounds, and the other Reavers can kill Hounds, and they can also shut down throwing axes to the point where the throwing axes can barely do anything. So maybe you want to go with double Reaver just to have that just aggressive pressure back there. So you're going to be getting a lot of archer value from those guys. I definitely think having some cav pressure. I mean, I do like the Fireborn, but they're just so expensive. Probably cut 1 Spearman here and just have 2 Spearmen with 3 White Lions in the secondary line. I think that could be a pretty decent little infantry corps. The Frostheart Phoenix isn't bad either. He has some good AP and some decent debuffs, but High Elves are one of my weaker races, so it's definitely fun to kind of theory craft with you guys here. I think getting the Sisters of Averlorn against some of the big angry Norscan monsters isn't a bad choice. Now, the Everqueen's Court Guards really could potentially be pretty good here, so let's actually mess around with those guys. Now, we have 2 archers with these guys. I don't think we need Lothern Seaguard as much, and we'll just be putting more resources to defend the Sisters back there. Then you could honestly just go with something like this. The Reavers are going to be able to do a lot of the different roles that Cav normally could. Sisters, or the Everqueen's Court Guards, can hopefully melt down the Fimir. You have a little bit more of a solid front line here. I think that if we had shut down the throwing axes earlier and gotten more pressure and cycle charging with the Reavers, although the issue being here is the Fimir. Those Fimir numbers were pretty scary. So, I mean, maybe we mix in a Frostheart Phoenix. It's a little bit tough to say. I do like the white lines as long as these two spearmen in the front like take the brunt of the charge, but I'll have to think about that one. But I think this could potentially be a pretty good build against Norska in general. But yeah, the sisters do pretty good against the big armored targets. The Everqueen Score Guards, if they do get attacked by hounds, they're just going to absolutely destroy them because they have like 63 melee defense. But Fireborn definitely are pretty good, but they don't have the best AP value, so I definitely think that you need a little something something to deal with those Norscan monsters. You could even mix in like one group of Phoenix Guard at the back, just like have those guys be your anchor. So if we wanted to do that, we could cut the Scions, cut the two Spearmen to get one Phoenix Guard, but I definitely feel like a little bit more width is going to be useful. So again, very well played to my opponent. Hopefully you enjoyed this post-game analysis and this little army breakdown here. We will see you guys next time. Take care.